The evening was quiet in the small town. The sun had already dipped below the hills, and the first stars began to appear in the wide sky. Arin walked back from his work, his hands rough from the day, his mind filled with simple thoughts of home and food. Life in the town was slow and ordinary. Nothing unusual ever happened here. That was why the sudden flash of light in the sky made him stop and stare. At first, he thought it was a falling star. The streak of brightness tore across the darkening sky, leaving a burning trail behind. But this light did not vanish like a shooting star. It grew larger and brighter until he could hear a faint roar rolling through the air. The ground trembled under his feet as the object sped closer. Then came a loud crash in the fields just beyond the town, followed by smoke rising into the sky. People shouted in surprise and ran from their houses. The whole town turned its attention to the fields where the strange object had landed. Some thought it was a meteor. Others whispered about war machines or hidden weapons. Arin did not wait to guess. His legs moved before his mind could settle. He ran toward the smoke, his heart beating fast. When he reached the field, he saw the soil torn apart in a long trench. At the end of the trench rested a small craft, unlike anything he had ever seen. Its surface was metal, curved and smooth, but burned and broken in many places. Sparks leapt from its sides. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface, fading in and out like breathing light. Arin stood still for a moment. He had never seen a machine like this. Fear and wonder mixed inside him. The townsfolk gathered behind him, forming a half-circle around the wreck. Nobody dared to go closer. They spoke in worried voices, arguing about whether it was dangerous. Then the door of the craft opened with a sharp hiss. A shape moved inside, stumbling into view. It was a girl. She looked young, close to Arin's own age, but her appearance was unlike anyone in the town. Her skin had a faint shimmer as if dusted with silver. Her eyes glowed softly, not bright enough to blind but enough to draw every gaze. Patterns like thin lines of light ran along her arms and faded across her neck, pulsing weakly. Her clothes were torn, made of some strange fabric that caught the light even in the smoke. The girl stepped forward but almost fell. She caught herself on the edge of the craft, breathing hard. Her face showed fear and pain, yet also a quiet strength. The crowd gasped. Some stepped back in alarm. Someone shouted, "Stay away, it could be dangerous." Another voice added, "She is not human. Do not touch her." The girl's knees gave way, and she collapsed onto the cold ground. She tried to rise again but failed. Her thin arms trembled, and her torn clothing did nothing to keep her warm in the evening air. She looked around at the humans who watched her, her silver eyes filled with silent pleading. Yet no one moved. The people only whispered, afraid of what they did not understand. Some pulled their children back. Others crossed their arms, choosing to stay still. In their eyes, the girl was something strange, something to fear. Arin felt his chest tighten as he watched her. She was hurt, weak, and alone. He could see the way she shivered, the way her eyes begged for help even without words. And still, nobody stepped forward. Arin made his choice. He pulled off his own coat, the only one he had with him, and walked past the line of hesitant townsfolk. He ignored their warnings. He ignored the whispers. His boots pressed into the soft soil as he crossed the distance to the girl. When he reached her, she lifted her head slightly, her glowing eyes focusing on him with surprise. She did not move away. She did not resist. She only looked at him as though she could not believe someone had come close. Arin knelt beside her. Without a word, he placed his coat over her shoulders. The fabric wrapped around her trembling frame, covering her torn clothes and shielding her from the night air. The girl's eyes widened, and her lips parted as if she wanted to speak but could not find the words. Then, slowly, she gave a faint smile. It was weak, but it carried gratitude so deep that Arin felt it in his heart. Behind him, the townsfolk whispered louder. Some were shocked at his action. Some called him foolish. But Arin paid them no attention. His focus was only on the girl before him. He placed a steady hand near her arm to show that he meant no harm. She leaned slightly against him, too tired to hold herself up. In that moment, Arin understood something simple. She was not a monster, not a threat, but a being lost and in need. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, she needed kindness. The night deepened around them. The wrecked craft hissed and crackled with dying sparks. Smoke drifted into the air, carrying the scent of metal and burned earth. The crowd remained where they were, unwilling to draw closer but unable to look away. The field was silent except for the soft crackle of the broken craft. Smoke still drifted into the air, glowing faintly under the starlight. The townsfolk kept their distance, whispering among themselves, too afraid to go near the strange girl. Arin remained kneeling beside her, his coat wrapped gently around her shoulders. The girl tried to lift her head again. Her silver eyes searched his face as if she wanted to understand why he had helped her when no one else had. She opened her mouth, but only a faint sound came out, weak and trembling. Her language was strange, filled with soft tones that none of the villagers had ever heard before. Arin could not understand her words, yet he understood the meaning in her expression. She was asking for safety. Arin spoke softly, though he knew she might not understand. "You are safe. Do not be afraid." His voice was calm, steady, like one might use to comfort a child. The girl blinked, her breathing uneven, but she no longer looked as frightened. She pulled the coat tighter around herself, shivering less under its warmth. Her glowing lines faded slightly, as though her body was calming. Behind Arin, a man from the crowd shouted, "Step away from her, Arin. You do not know what she is. She could be dangerous." Others muttered in agreement, their voices rising with fear. Arin did not turn back. He kept his eyes on the girl, his heart steady. "She is hurt. Look at her. Does danger look like this?" His words carried across the field, silencing some of the murmurs. Still, many villagers shook their heads, unwilling to trust what they did not understand. The girl tried to stand. She pushed against the ground with shaking hands but could not rise. Arin reached out and gently helped her sit upright. Her eyes met his again, and this time she gave a small nod. It was not a word, but it was a sign that she accepted his help. For the first time, Arin noticed the strange patterns glowing on her arms. They pulsed faintly, like slow-moving veins of light. He could feel a warmth from them, gentle and steady, not harmful. The glow fascinated him, but he did not stare for long, not wanting her to feel like a spectacle. Instead, he focused on keeping her steady. The villagers began to pull back, muttering as they walked away. Some shook their heads, others whispered warnings to each other. In the end, only a few remained at the edge of the field, watching with wary eyes. Most had decided they did not want to be near the wreck or the girl who had fallen from the sky. When the noise of the crowd faded, the field grew quiet again. The girl leaned against Arin for support, her breathing slow but steadying. He noticed how cold her hands felt, as if all warmth had drained from her body during the crash. He held her arm gently, giving what little warmth he could. "Do you have a name?" Arin asked softly, though he expected no answer. The girl looked at him for a long moment. Her lips moved, shaping a word. It came out faint and broken. "Nira." Arin repeated it carefully. "Nira." Her eyes brightened, and she gave the smallest nod. It was her name. Hearing her name made her feel less like a mystery and more like a person. Arin smiled at her, and though she was weak, she returned the gesture, a spark of light in her silver eyes. He thought of taking her back to the town, but he knew what would happen. The people would not welcome her. They would turn her away, perhaps even treat her as a danger. Arin could not allow that. She was too fragile, too lost. If she was left alone, she might not survive the night. You cannot stay here, Arin whispered, more to himself than to her. Come with me. I will help you. He helped her rise slowly. She was light, her steps unsteady, and she leaned on him for support. Each movement seemed to drain her strength, but she did not resist. Together, they walked away from the broken craft, leaving the smoking wreck behind. The path back to Arin's small house was not long, but under the weight of the night, every step felt heavy. The stars above shone brighter now, filling the sky with countless lights. Arin wondered which one might have been Nira's home. When they reached his house at the edge of the town, Arin pushed the door open and guided her inside. His home was simple: a wooden table, a small bed, and a few tools from his work. It was not much, but it was shelter. He guided Nira to the bed, where she sat slowly, clutching his coat close to her body. Her eyes roamed the room, curious but still wary. Arin knelt to the fire pit and lit a small flame. Warm light spread across the room, chasing away the cold. He filled a cup with water and offered it to her. At first, she hesitated, studying the object as if it was new to her. Then she took it carefully and sipped. Relief showed on her face as she drank, and her body seemed to relax a little. Arin watched her with quiet determination. He knew he had made the right choice. She was not a monster. She was not an enemy. She was just someone in need. Nira set the cup down and looked at him. Her voice was soft, broken, but she tried again to speak. Thank you. The words were rough, her accent heavy, but Arin understood them clearly. His heart lifted at the sound. She was learning his language, even if only a little. You are welcome, he said gently. The night stretched on, but Arin did not feel tired. He stayed near the fire, watching as Nira slowly drifted into rest. The glow of her markings dimmed until they were barely visible. She looked peaceful now, no longer trembling from cold or fear. Arin sat back, his mind full of questions. Who was she? Where had she come from? Why had no one else stepped forward to help her? He did not have the answers, but he knew this helping her was the only choice his heart would allow. Outside, the town slept uneasily, with whispers of fear passing through dark streets. But inside Arin's small home, a new bond had formed. It began with a coat, a drink of water, and a word of thanks. A simple act of kindness had created a connection that could not be broken. Morning came slowly over the quiet town. The sky turned from dark blue to pale gold, and the sound of roosters echoed in the distance. Arin woke early, as he always did, but this morning was not like the others. His thoughts were on Nira. She was still resting on his small bed. The coat was wrapped around her shoulders, and her silver eyes were closed. The strange glowing lines on her skin pulsed softly, steady like a heartbeat. She looked peaceful now, not weak and trembling like before. Arin moved quietly around the room. He warmed some bread on the fire and poured fresh water into a cup. When the smell of food reached Nira, her eyes opened slowly. She blinked in the light of the morning and sat up. For a moment, she looked confused, as if unsure where she was. Then she saw Arin and her face softened. You are safe, Arin said gently. He handed her the bread, and though she seemed unsure, she took it carefully. She studied the food for a moment, then tasted it. A faint smile touched her lips. Arin felt relief. At least she could eat what he offered. After she finished, Arin spoke again. I need to go to the town today. They will ask questions about last night. Stay here, and I will return soon. Nira looked at him with a mix of worry and trust. She gave a small nod, pulling the coat tighter around her as though afraid he might not come back. Arin gave her a reassuring smile before stepping out into the morning air. The town was already awake. People gathered in the square, their voices low but tense. When Arin walked into the crowd, many turned to look at him. He could feel their eyes watching, their suspicion heavy in the air. The elder of the town, a man with white hair and a stern face, raised his hand for silence. Last night, something fell from the sky. We all saw it. A strange craft burned in our fields. From that craft came a girl who is not one of us. We must decide what to do. Murmurs rose in the crowd. Some wanted the craft destroyed. Others feared sickness or curses. Many agreed the girl should be cast out, left to fend for herself. No one spoke of helping her. Arin stepped forward. She is not a danger. She is weak and alone. She needed help, and no one stepped forward but me. She has a name. Her name is Nira. The crowd stirred at the sound of her name. Some scoffed, others looked uneasy. The elder frowned. You touched her? You brought her close? That was foolish. You do not know what she carries. You do not know what enemies might follow her. Arin kept his voice firm. I saw her. She is not a weapon, not a sickness. She is a person. She was afraid and cold. I gave her my coat, and she thanked me. Is that the act of a monster? A woman in the crowd shouted, kindness will not protect us if danger comes. What if others like her arrive? What if they bring war? Another voice joined, better to drive her away now before it is too late. The crowd grew louder, voices rising in fear. Arin stood tall, refusing to bend. If we turn away from her, what does that make us? If we leave her to die, we lose what makes us human. She has no one else. If we cannot show mercy, then what are we worth? His words hung in the air. For a moment, silence touched the crowd. Yet fear was stronger than reason. The elder spoke again, his tone sharp. Arin, your heart may be kind, but your actions may bring harm to us all. If you choose to help this girl, then you take the risk alone. Do not ask the town to carry the weight of your choice. The decision was clear. The town would not help. They would turn their backs. Arin clenched his fists but said nothing more. He knew arguing would change nothing. The people were too afraid. Fear had closed their hearts. He left the square, walking quickly back to his home. Inside, Nira was waiting by the window. She looked at him the moment he entered, her silver eyes searching his face. Though she could not understand all the words, she seemed to sense what had happened. They will not help, Arin said quietly. They are afraid of you. Nira lowered her head. The glow of her markings dimmed, and her shoulders sank. She looked so small, so lost, that Arin's chest ached. He moved closer and knelt beside her. But I will help you. You are not alone. Her eyes lifted to meet his, and for the first time, he saw a glimmer of trust deeper than before. She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched his arm lightly. It was not a word, but it was enough. The rest of the day passed quietly. Arin showed Nira how to drink warm broth, how to rest without fear. She listened carefully, her head tilting as she tried to follow his simple words. Sometimes she repeated them, her accent heavy but clear. Every time she spoke, Arin felt a spark of hope. When night came, Arin sat by the fire again, his thoughts heavy. He knew the town would watch him with suspicion now. They would not forgive him for choosing to help the alien girl. Yet he did not regret it. Looking across the room, he saw Nira asleep, the coat still wrapped around her. The glow of her markings was faint but steady. She looked fragile, yet strong in a way he could not explain. Arin whispered to himself, they may turn away, but I will not. The night outside was quiet, but in Arin's small home, a bond of trust and kindness grew stronger. The town had chosen fear, but Arin had chosen humanity. Days passed after the crash. The town kept its distance. People avoided Arin on the streets, whispering behind his back. Some shook their heads in disapproval, others turned away altogether. But Arin did not let their fear change his decision. Every morning, he returned home with food or water for Nira, and every evening, he stayed by her side. Nira grew stronger little by little. The glow of her markings no longer flickered weakly. Her steps, once unsteady, became firmer each day. She still wrapped herself in Arin's coat, as though it had become her shield. She spoke little, but her eyes showed gratitude every time she looked at him. One morning, as sunlight poured through the small window of Arin's house, Nira pointed to a cup of water on the table. She touched her chest and said softly, "W.A. Tur." Her accent was heavy, but the word was clear. Arin's eyes lit up. "Yes. Water." He repeated it slowly, pointing to the cup as she did. Nira smiled faintly and repeated again, "Water." It was a small step, but it felt like a bridge being built between them. Each day after that, they practiced simple words. Arin pointed to objects in the room: bread, fire, bed, and spoke their names. Nira repeated them carefully, sometimes stumbling, sometimes laughing softly at her mistakes. Arin also listened to the sounds she made when she tried to teach him her own words. Her language was flowing and melodic, unlike anything he had ever heard. He tried to copy her, earning a quiet laugh when his tongue stumbled over the strange syllables. For the first time since the crash, Nira's laughter filled the room, light and gentle. As the days turned into weeks, their bond grew. Communication was still difficult, but it no longer felt impossible. They used gestures, smiles, and shared effort to understand one another. Slowly, the silence between them became filled with meaning. One evening, after the sun had set and the stars were bright, Nira gestured for Arin to follow her outside. Curious, he stepped with her into the field beyond his home. The night was cool, and the grass swayed under the wind. Nira raised her hand and touched one of the glowing lines on her arm. The marking lit brighter, then she pressed her hand to a small piece of crystal she carried. The crystal flared with soft light, casting gentle rays across the field. Arin gasped softly. He had never seen such a thing. "What is it?" he asked, though he knew she might not understand. Nira lifted the crystal and pointed to the stars. Then she drew a circle in the air with her finger, as if to show the vastness of the sky. She placed the crystal in Arin's hand and closed his fingers around it. The warmth of the light seeped through his skin. He realized she was showing him something of her people, something precious. Arin whispered, "Home." Nira's silver eyes softened, and she nodded slowly. "Home," she repeated, her voice tinged with longing. That night, Arin felt a weight in his heart. Nira was far from her world, far from everything she knew. The crash had left her stranded, and the hunters she spoke of still lingered in her silence. He understood then that her journey was not just about survival, but about finding her way back to where she belonged. The next day, Arin decided to show her something of his own. He took her to the river near the town, where the water ran clear and smooth over the stones. Children once played there, though now the townsfolk kept their distance when they saw Nira. Still, Arin ignored their looks and led her to the edge. He knelt by the river, scooping water into his hands, and splashed it onto his face. Then he laughed, wiping the drops away. Nira watched closely, tilting her head. After a pause, she copied him, lifting water to her face. The shock of the cold made her laugh too, her voice bright against the rushing current. Arin smiled. For a moment, it did not matter that she was not from this world. For a moment, she was simply a friend learning something new. In the evenings, they sat together by the fire. Nira drew shapes in the dirt with a stick: circles, lines, and stars. Arin realized she was trying to show him maps of the sky. He recognized none of the patterns, but the way she traced them, with care and memory, told him they were important. He answered by drawing simple things from his own life, the hills, the river, the little houses of the town. Nira studied them with interest, pointing to each and repeating the words he taught her. Slowly, their drawings became like conversations, a language neither of them had fully mastered but both understood. One night, as they sat together, Nira touched the coat still around her shoulders. She looked at Arin and spoke softly. Arin, kind. The word struck him deeply. She had pieced it together herself, mixing his name with one of the words he had taught her. It was her way of telling him she saw his heart. Arin looked into her glowing eyes and felt something stir within him. He had only done what he believed was right, but to Nira, it was everything. The town still whispered. People still warned him to leave her. Yet in those quiet moments, as Nira learned his words and shared her own, Arin knew he would never regret his choice. She was not a burden. She was a teacher, a companion, and a reminder that kindness could build bridges where fear had built walls. The nights grew colder, but inside the small home, warmth filled the air. It was not just the fire but the growing trust between human and alien. Together, they were learning not only words but each other's hearts. The weeks after Nira's arrival brought a fragile peace. She grew stronger, her steps steady, her voice clearer with each day. Arin taught her more words, and she shared pieces of her knowledge through gestures, drawings, and glowing crystals. Their bond deepened, but a shadow hung over them both. The memory of the burning ship and her fearful eyes whenever she looked at the sky told Arin that danger had not ended. The townsfolk never accepted her. Some avoided Arin completely. Others whispered warnings whenever he walked through the square. He felt their eyes on his back, heavy with distrust. Still, he did not let it trouble him. His only concern was Nira. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Nira stood outside Arin's house, staring at the horizon. Her silver eyes shimmered, but her face was tense. Arin stepped beside her. "What is it?" he asked gently. She pointed to the sky, where faint streaks of light moved among the stars. They were not like falling stars, nor like the natural glow of the heavens. These lights shifted in strange patterns, weaving across the night sky as if searching. Nira's hand trembled slightly as she drew a shape in the air with her finger. It looked like the sharp outline of a ship. Then she placed her hand over her chest, her markings glowing brighter, and whispered a word Arin had not heard before. Her voice carried fear. "Hunters," she said finally, in broken human speech. The word sent a chill through Arin. He did not know who these hunters were, but he understood enough. They were the ones who had chased her across the stars. They were the reason her ship had fallen. And now, they were here. The next day, the town buzzed with unease. People had seen the strange lights too. Rumors spread like fire. Some said it was the return of gods. Others claimed it was an omen of destruction. Most believed it was connected to the girl. The elder gathered the townsfolk and spoke with grave concern. "We warned against sheltering the stranger. Now the sky is filled with signs. If danger comes, it will be because of her." Fearful voices rose in agreement. Many demanded that Nira be given up, left outside the town so that whatever followed her would not harm them. Arin stepped forward, his jaw tight. "You do not understand. She is not our enemy. She is running from them, just as we would run if someone hunted us. To cast her out is not only cruel, it is cowardice." But his words did not calm them. Instead, the crowd grew louder. A man shouted, "If we do nothing, we will all suffer. Better one than all." The elder silenced them with a raised hand. "If Arin wishes to risk his life for her, that is his choice. But if danger falls on this town because of her, the blame will be his." Arin left the square with anger burning in his chest. When he returned home, Nira was waiting. She looked at him with worried eyes, as though she already knew what had been said. "They want you gone," Arin admitted. "They are afraid." Nira lowered her head. Her silver hair fell across her face, and the glow of her markings dimmed. "Alone," she whispered, her voice heavy with sadness. Arin shook his head firmly. "No. You are not alone. Not while I am here." That night, the threat grew closer. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, low hums that carried across the hills. The ground trembled faintly as if heavy machines moved somewhere far beyond sight. Nira did not sleep. She sat by the window, watching the stars with wide, fearful eyes. Arin stayed beside her. "Tell me," he said softly. "Who are they?" With effort, Nira explained in broken words and gestures. The hunters were not her people. They were conquerors who roamed the stars, taking what they desired. Her ship had been fleeing them when they caught her. She had barely escaped before falling to this world. Now they had found her again. Arin listened carefully. The more she spoke, the more he understood. These hunters would not stop. They would come to take her, and perhaps destroy anyone who stood in their way. The next morning, signs of the hunters appeared more clearly. The townsfolk woke to see strange machines flying high above, dark shapes against the morning sun. They moved silently, scanning the land below. Crops shivered under sudden gusts of wind as the machines passed overhead. Panic spread quickly. People ran to gather their children and shut their doors. The elder stood in the square, his voice firm. "This is because of the girl. If she leaves, they will leave us." Arin stood at the edge of the crowd, his fists clenched. He saw the fear in their faces, but he also saw their weakness. They wanted to surrender, to give Nira up in the hope of saving themselves. That night, Arin spoke with Nira by the fire. "They are coming. The town will not protect you. They will turn you away." Nira looked down at her hands. "You, leave me," she said softly, struggling with the words. Arin shook his head. "Never. I will not leave you." She met his eyes then, her silver gaze filled with both fear and hope. For the first time, she reached out and held his hand tightly, as if anchoring herself to his promise. The following days were filled with tension. The machines in the sky grew more frequent. At night, strange lights flashed on the horizon, and the low hum of engines echoed through the hills. The people of the town grew restless, their fear turning into anger. But Arin's resolve only grew stronger. He began preparing, gathering ropes, wood, and anything that might serve as defense. Some villagers mocked him. Others shook their heads, calling him foolish. But a few, quietly, began to wonder if he was right. One evening, as the hunters' machines passed overhead again, Arin stood outside with Nira. She pressed close to him, her eyes never leaving the sky. He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "They may come," he said, his voice steady. "But we will stand. You are not alone." For a long moment, Nira said nothing. Then she whispered the word she had learned, the word she had chosen for him. "Arin, kind." The sound of it gave him strength. Whatever danger was coming, he would face it. For Nira, for humanity, for the belief that kindness was stronger than fear. The morning came with silence, but it was not the silence of peace. The air felt heavy, as though the land itself was holding its breath. Arin stepped outside and saw the sky darkened by shadows. The hunters' ships hung above like great black birds, watching the earth below. Nira stood beside him, her silver eyes wide, her markings glowing faintly. She whispered one word in her soft, broken voice. "They come." By noon, the town was in chaos. People rushed to gather what little they could. Mothers held their children close. Men carried tools as if they could fight machines with farm gear. Fear ruled the streets. The elder called for a gathering in the square. His voice shook as he shouted, "We must give them what they want. If we surrender the girl, they may spare us." Arin's anger boiled. He stepped forward, his voice clear and steady. "You do not understand. They will not stop with her. If we hand her over, they will take more. They will see us as weak. They will return again and again until we have nothing left." The crowd fell quiet for a moment, but fear still clouded their eyes. A farmer shouted back, "And what would you have us do, Arin? Fight ships from the sky? We are not soldiers." Arin raised his voice. "We are humans. We stand together. That is our strength. If we bow now, we lose more than our lives, we lose who we are." Some lowered their heads in shame. Others looked to him with uncertain hope. That night, Arin worked alone at first. He set traps in the fields, dug pits, and prepared fires. He gathered ropes and sharpened wooden stakes. He did not know if such things could hurt the hunters, but he would not wait helplessly. To his surprise, a few villagers came to him. A blacksmith named Doran brought iron tools and heavy chains. A shepherd named Mila brought her strong dogs. Slowly, more people joined. Not all, but enough to make a difference. Doran spoke gruffly as he set down his hammer. "You are right, Arin. If we give her up, we lose our pride. I would rather fall fighting than live as prey." Arin nodded in gratitude. "Then we fight together." Nira watched them, her eyes shining with quiet hope. She could not speak much, but she worked beside them, using her strange knowledge to guide their hands. She showed them how to place reflective stones to confuse the hunters' machines, how to use light to blind their sensors, and how to mark the ground to trick their movements. Her presence gave them courage. For the first time, the town was united. Fear remained, but courage began to grow stronger. The next evening, the hunters descended. Their ships roared like thunder as they swept over the hills. Beams of pale light scanned the ground, searching. When the first ship landed beyond the fields, the earth shook. The hunters emerged tall, armored beings with weapons that glowed in their hands. The people of the town trembled, but they did not run. Arin stood at the front with Nira behind him. His voice rang out over the fields. "This is our land. You will not take her." The hunters did not answer. They raised their weapons, cold and silent. The first blast struck, a searing bolt of light tearing into the ground. But the villagers were ready. They lit the fires, releasing thick smoke that spread across the fields. The hunters' lights flickered against the haze, their vision blurred. Dogs rushed from hiding, barking fiercely, driving the invaders back toward the pits. Chains snapped around the legs of one hunter, dragging him down. Villagers hurled stones and spears from the shadows. They were not strong enough to kill, but they slowed the enemy, forced them to stumble. Arin charged with a wooden spear, striking at the gaps in the hunter's armor. The blow glanced off, but it forced the hunter to retreat a step. Behind him, Doran swung his hammer with all his strength, striking sparks from the alien metal. The battle raged in chaos. The hunters were powerful, their weapons deadly. But the villagers fought with the strength of desperation and unity. For every man who fell, another rushed forward. Nira moved among them, her hands glowing with soft light. She touched the wounded, and though she could not heal fully, her strange power eased their pain and kept them standing. Her presence lifted their spirits, reminding them of why they fought. At one moment, a hunter broke through the defenses and charged toward Nira. Arin saw it and ran with all his strength. He leapt in front of her, raising his shield. The alien weapon struck, burning through wood and scorching his arm, but he did not fall back. He roared in defiance, pushing forward until others rushed to his side and drove the hunter away. The fight dragged on into the night. Fires burned across the fields, smoke rising into the dark sky. The hunters, though strong, had not expected resistance from simple villagers. Their machines were caught in traps, their weapons confused by light and smoke. For the first time, they hesitated. Finally, as dawn broke, the hunters withdrew. Their ships lifted into the sky, carrying the wounded with them. The villagers stood in silence, watching the dark shapes fade into the distance. Exhausted and bloodied, they turned to one another. They had survived. Against all odds, they had stood their ground. Arin lowered his broken shield and looked at Nira. She stepped closer, her silver eyes shining with tears. She placed her hand gently on his chest and spoke with clear words. "You, brave." Arin smiled faintly despite his wounds. "We all are." For the first time, the villagers no longer looked at Nira with fear. They saw her as part of them, someone worth protecting, someone who had given them hope. The elder, humbled, bowed his head. "Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps kindness is not weakness." But Arin knew the danger was not over. The hunters had retreated, not been defeated. They would return, stronger than before. Yet he also knew something had changed. Humanity had proven it would not bow. The morning sun rose over the town, casting warm light on fields that were still scorched and trampled from the battle. Smoke from small fires drifted upward, mixing with the gentle mist that clung to the hills. The villagers moved quietly, exhausted but alive, tending to one another and repairing what they could. Arin walked among them, checking that everyone was safe. His arm bore bruises and burns from the night's fight, but his spirit remained strong. He had seen fear, courage, and determination, all intertwined in the faces of the people he had once thought were too afraid to act. Nira followed him closely, her silver eyes alert. The glow of her markings was soft now, a calm light after the chaos of battle. She walked with a new confidence, her steps steady, her head held high. She had survived the hunters and stood among humans who had fought to protect her. The villagers had begun to accept her. Children peeked out from behind their parents, curious about the strange girl who had arrived from the stars. Some dared to approach her, holding out small gifts of bread or flowers. She accepted them timidly at first, then smiled, the soft glow of her eyes brightening with trust. Arin led her to the center of the town, where the people had gathered. The elder, humbled and thoughtful, stepped forward. "You have brought something to us that we did not understand before," he said. "You showed us courage, and you reminded us what it means to care for one another. For that, we are grateful." Nira looked at the elder and inclined her head slightly. Her voice was soft, broken, but the words were clear. "Thank you." A quiet murmur spread through the crowd. The villagers, who had once whispered in fear, now looked on with respect. They had seen her bravery, her willingness to help in their defense, and her knowledge that had guided them through the fight. Arin knelt beside Nira. "You are safe now," he said gently. "No one will turn away from you here. You are part of this town." Nira's silver eyes shimmered with gratitude. She reached for his hand, and Arin squeezed it gently, a bond of trust and friendship passing silently between them. Over the next days, the town began to rebuild. The scars of battle remained, but hope was stronger. Villagers worked together, repairing homes, tending to the fields, and helping those injured. Nira joined them, showing what she could do. She helped lift heavy objects with surprising strength, and her glowing hands guided the placement of stones and tools with precision. Arin watched her with quiet pride. She was learning the ways of humans, just as he had learned some of her ways. Each day, she grew stronger, more confident, and more capable. In turn, she taught him about her world, sharing stories of the stars and the vast places she had seen. He listened in awe, imagining worlds he had never known. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Nira and Arin sat by the river near the town. The water reflected the colors of the sky, rippling softly in the gentle breeze. Nira traced patterns in the sand with her fingers, shapes that reminded Arin of the stars. They, far, she said softly, pointing upward, meaning the stars where her home waited. Arin nodded. Yes. Far, but not impossible. One day, you may return. And when you do, you will carry the story of this town, the people who stood for you. She looked at him, her eyes shining. Arin, help, she whispered. You will always have help, he said firmly. From me and from the people here. You are never alone. A quiet peace settled over them. The town had faced danger and fear, yet it had emerged stronger, united by courage and compassion. The hunters had retreated, but the bond between human and alien remained. They had proven that strength was not only in weapons, but in unity, kindness, and trust. Days turned into weeks. Nira began to teach the children simple words from her language, and they shared small stories of distant stars and glowing crystals. The villagers learned from her just as she had learned from them. Every day was a new chance to grow, to share knowledge, and to celebrate the courage that had saved them. Arin often walked with Nira through the fields at dawn. They spoke little, but the silence was comfortable, filled with understanding. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The hunters could return, and the challenges of the universe were vast. Yet he also knew that together, with courage and trust, they could face whatever came. One quiet evening, as stars began to appear in the sky once more, Nira looked up and touched Arin's hand. Promise, she whispered. Arin looked at her, curiosity and concern in his eyes. Promise, together, she said. Her voice was soft but clear, her glow brighter in the twilight. He smiled gently. I promise. We will face whatever comes together. You will not be alone again. A sense of calm washed over both of them. The promise was more than words, it was a bond of hope, courage, and friendship. In that moment, they knew that whatever dangers lay beyond the horizon, they would face them as one. The town, once fearful and divided, had been transformed. Fear had given way to courage, hesitation to action, and distrust to trust. Nira, the alien girl who had arrived alone and weak, had become a symbol of unity, a bridge between worlds. And Arin, the young man who had chosen kindness when no one else would, had shown the true strength of humanity. His courage had inspired others, and his actions had reminded them all that even in the face of the unknown, compassion and bravery could light the darkest path. As the stars twinkled above, Nira and Arin stood together by the river, watching the reflections shimmer on the water. The town behind them was quiet, yet alive, filled with the hope of tomorrow. Nira turned to Arin and spoke softly, her voice full of trust. Thank you. Arin smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond the fire in his heart. No. Thank you, Nira. You have taught us more than you know. She looked up at the stars, then back at the people of the town who had once feared her. A small smile formed on her lips. Home, now, she said. Yes, Arin said. This is your home. And one day, when the stars call you back, you will carry this home with you. The night air was calm. The river flowed gently, and the town rested under the watch of the first moonlight. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity had stood strong, kindness had triumphed, and together, they had forged a bond that would last through whatever came. For Nira, the alien girl who had fallen from the stars, and for Arin, the boy who chose to help when no one else would, the promise of tomorrow was bright, full of hope, courage, and friendship.